Live from Treaty 1 territory, this is APTN National News, recognized as Canada's best national newscast.
Tansen itute magtiar Wheatley Nisagasun Opasquak Uchanina. Pow-wow, welcome to APTN National News for this Monday. Mino Punapano Gisagawanuts. An Akwesasne man has pleaded guilty to being part of a human smuggling ring. Storm Delormier admitted in court he was part of a group smuggling 2 children and their parents into the U.S. But in March 2023, a boat capsized in the St. Lawrence and the family of 4 died. He faces up to 15 years in prison. People in the village of Fort Simpson, Northwest Territories have been ordered to evacuate due to an out-of-control wildfire. The community's roughly 1,300 residents have been told to make their way to Yellowknife, about 630 kilometers to the east. The territorial government's website says the Decho fire is roughly 7 kilometers west of the Fort Simpson airport. Wildfire officials say the fire is about 4.2 square kilometers in size. Evacuations are underway for 2 First Nations in northern Manitoba. This is the second summer in a row both have to face full or partial evacuations due to wildfires. Marcel Colomb Cree Nation has activated its evacuation plan due to approaching wildfires, and the nearby mining town of Lynn Lake, which serves as a key supply and service hub for the First Nation, is under a mandatory evacuation. On Sunday, it was announced 110 Marcel Colomb members were being evacuated immediately due to a critical shortage of resources. Meanwhile, wildfires have cut off the only road into the Opipinapi Cree Nation. They are under a state of emergency and initial air evacuations are underway with approximately 200 priority evacuees with medical needs who were expected to be transported on Sunday and Monday. Emergency partners at the Canadian Red Cross and Indigenous Services Canada are working together to coordinate response efforts. Reception centers are being established to assist arriving evacuees. The clock is ticking towards a July 1st deadline for the Alberta government to submit a proposal for a new oil pipeline to the Major Projects Office. Back in May, Prime Minister Mark Carney and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith signed an updated deal, greenlighting construction on a new pipeline for as early as fall of 2027. However, as of now, there is no private proponent for the project, with Alberta filling that role in the meantime. The precise route that the pipeline to the west coast would take is also still in doubt, with Smith preferring a northern option, which is facing steep opposition in British Columbia. The Red Chris mine in northern BC has been greenlit by the provincial government to expand operations, extending its lifespan into the year 2040. The copper gold mine is owned by Newmont Corporation in partnership with Imperial Metals. The expansion will now employ 1,800 new workers and protect 1,500 permanent jobs. 15 million tons of ore will be processed annually and will increase copper production by 15%. A councillor in Nunavut is facing charges of sexual assault, manslaughter, and criminal negligence causing death. Michael Angutatar in the hamlet of Whale Cove was charged in connection with an alleged incident on March 25th. Whale Cove is a community of about 500 people on Nunavut's western Hudson Bay coast. Last week, Angutatar appeared in Iqaluit by video where he chose to be tried by jury. A publication ban prevents the identification of the victim. Angutatar remains in custody. His next court date is July 21st. It was a big week of federal investment north of 60. Federal, provincial, territorial, and Indigenous representatives met last week in Yellowknife to discuss clean energy and mining initiatives. Our reporter Charlotte Mort Jacobs brings us the details on a massive investment for critical mineral development.
From the shores of Great Slave Lake, the federal government is unveiling how they plan to spend $76 million from a critical minerals fund to support mining. Up to $50 million will go to a joint venture by Fortune Minerals and the Klitschko government to build a new 51-kilometer access road connecting the proposed Nico mine near Wati to the territorial highway system.
We are also providing nearly $800,000 in Indigenous capacity funding to the Clecho government and over $140,000 to the North Slave Métis Alliance so their communities can undertake engagement activities, gather traditional knowledge, and strengthen local expertise.
The Clecho government says the project reflects a shift from legacy mining that didn't always benefit Indigenous groups. But now backed by land claim agreements and integrated regulatory processes, it's a different way of doing business.
When they first came, the imposition of the way the IBAs were done and the joint partnership that were formed, where you only had 51% and no control. Management was always with your minority partners, right? So we have all of those legacies that weren't really helpful to the nations in the Northwest Territories. So we were learning.
Fortune Minerals touts Nico as the largest bismuth deposit in the world, but would also offer cobalt, gold, and copper. It would also allow for concentrates from the mine to be trucked and transferred to rail and delivery to the Alberta refinery for processing. Additional funding is going towards Indigenous participation, capacity building, and community engagement. Along with the road funding, Ottawa is providing more than $140,000 to the North Slave Métis Alliance to strengthen their capacity to participate in planning and regulatory decisions.
The North Slave Métis Alliance has recently had our Section 35 Aboriginal rights recognized by Canada, and we are now engaged in our nation-to-nation discussions regarding our future relationship. As rights holders in our traditional territories, really shared traditional territories, it is essential that we have resources to participate effectively in major infrastructure and resource projects.
The proposed Nico mine still faces regulatory and permitting processes before construction can begin. However, this announcement marks one of the largest federal infrastructure commitments yet to support the project and Indigenous participation in its development. Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Kinanaskabit in Charlotte. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans is closing a salmon hatchery in New Brunswick. However, the Wolastoqey leadership say they were not consulted and are calling for the hatchery closing to be delayed so they can develop an alternative program to conserve dwindling Atlantic salmon stocks. Angel Moore brings us this story.
Leonard Nicholas shows his 10-year-old niece, Sophia Martin, how smolts, baby salmon, are protected from the Tobic Narrows hydroelectric dam in New Brunswick.
There's a spillway up there that they go down with the water, and then there's a small collecting pool up there, and then they swim down this tube that you see, and then they end up in this holding tank here, and then we transport them to the other side of the furthest dam.
Nicholas is the Aboriginal Fisheries Strategy Manager for the Nugudkuk First Nation. It lies along the Tobic River, next to Tobic Narrows. Nicholas says transporting the smolts to the other side of the dam is a small effort when it comes to conserving Atlantic salmon. He's doing this because DFO is closing down the Mactaquac Biodiversity Facility, which includes the hatchery.
But now they won't take our fish anymore, so we're transporting them to the other side of the Mactaquac Dam to give them a fighting chance to get out to the ocean.
Nicholas says the announced closure earlier this year left no alternative to conserve the salmon.
The reckless decision that DFO has made here.
The hatchery has been in operation since the 1960s to conserve the salmon impacted by the Mactaquac Dam. Salmon were raised for about 3 years and then released into the Wolastoq River. Village First Nation Chief Justice Grubin says they were not consulted and want DFO to keep the facility open.
Yes, the request was an extension on the timeline for us to strategize and coordinate on what the future of the biodiversity facility looks like. Our ask is still up in the air, and we're hoping that DFO responds in a timely manner, as this is of great importance for our communities.
Grubin recently took his concerns to a parliamentary committee on fisheries and oceans earlier this month.
I want to be extremely clear. The closure of this facility represents the extinction of salmon in the Wolastoq watershed.
Village is located between the hatchery and the Mactaquac hydroelectric dam along the Wolastoq. In fact, all 6 Wolastoqey communities are along the banks of the river.
So the river is a direct part of who we are. It's a part of our identity. And salmon are a direct part of our identity. They're our kin. And so I think it's an important piece when we discuss how these impacts and how, changing the landscape can impact our future generations, including the closure of a Mactaquac biodiversity facility.
Patrick Polchis is an elder, and he says salmon is important to Wolastoqey culture.
We have lived on the river for many thousands of years, and it would have been one of the keystone species for us in terms of economy. The availability of the fish, our technologies and ability to catch and use the fish was a very important part of our day-to-day life.
The Department of Fisheries and Oceans said in an email to APTN News they are closing the biodiversity facility and hatchery because salmon returns remain low. DFO says they are in discussions with First Nations to preserve the Atlantic salmon. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Village, New Brunswick.
Kinanaskamitin Angel Agua. We hear from 2 Indigenous sisters from Alberta after the break to talk about the latest Amazing Race. Jessica. Come on in, Pitigwe. Season 12 of CTV's hit show Amazing Race Canada is set to premiere on July 7th with 10 teams set to go on an adventure of a lifetime. One of those teams is Korean Métis sisters Shayla and Cheyenne Marie Sage, whose hometown is Edmonton, Alberta in Treaty 6 territory. Cheyenne is a best-selling author and digital content leader at Inspire, and Shayla is a mother and executive assistant. They joined Savannah Kelly for a conversation earlier.
Cheyenne, Shayla, thank you both so much for joining us today. Firstly, whose idea was it to apply for the Amazing Race Canada, and did you need to convince the other to join you?
So this was my idea, sort of how it came to be. I actually got a message from one of the producers or casting directors to be like, oh, have you ever thought about applying? And I was like, I can't say I ever have thought of applying, but when you see a message like that come through, I feel like I always let kind of like creator guide me. So I was like, maybe this is something I should do. And then I was thinking of like, okay, well, who would be like the best partner? And I was like, my sister Shayla is just like so down for anything. Like she can build things. She can just, she's one of those people that can truly just do anything when you put it in front of her. And so I was like, should we like apply for this and do this?
I got a text from her one day and she's like, so would you ever go on the Amazing Race Canada? And I'm like, yes, immediately, yes, 100%. It's an opportunity we could not miss out on. And I'm like, we absolutely should apply and do this.
That's awesome. And so once you made it and like you found out you're going to be on the show, what did you both do to prepare? Cheyenne, we'll go to you first.
Oh, so many things, actually. I took dance classes. I started rock climbing. I was training every day, wearing a weighted backpack, outside, inside. I'm on my Stairmaster like every single day training, as well as doing different like word puzzle games, like just trying to be alert mentally and physically as well.
And Shayla, what about you?
Yeah, she was definitely more physically prepared than I was. I kind of steered more towards doing brain games, training my brain. Me and my 11-year-old daughter, she was helping me practice up my math skills. I'm like, okay, I need to remember, how do I do long division? How do I do long multiplication? So my daughter was actually helping me with a lot of the mental aspects of the training for it. But I definitely should have done more weighted backpack training like Cheyenne was doing.
That's awesome. And can you tell us a bit more about Team PBC? What do the letters stand for and why did you choose it as your team name?
PBC stands for Protected by Creator, and this was a motto that really stuck to us and sat in our souls and our hearts that we really believe in. We truly believe we are protected by Creator, or AKA creators' favorites. So we felt like this was the perfect team name for us, and kind of manifesting that energy, you know, bringing forward into the race.
And you know, it's like our whole lives, like all of the challenges we've struggled, even when you face something that's hard or sad or any of those things, it has always led us to a better point in life. And so we've really just learned how to trust in Creator and Creator's plan and just operate on instinct. So we knew that our ancestors and our spirit team in Creator was going to be looking out for us the whole time.
Awesome. And so in your promos, you say you want to show what Indigenous women are really made of. Why is that important for you, Shayla?
Honestly, I know for myself, when I see Indigenous women excelling and, you know, putting themselves out there, it's really inspiring for me to see that representation. And I really hoped that we could do the same for others and they could see us and help inspire them and, you know, remind them that it doesn't matter what you come from, what type of traumas you've gone through, that you can push yourselves and put yourselves out there and do great things.
And Cheyenne, same question to you. Why was it important for you and your team to show what Indigenous women are made of?
Yeah, I mean, so many reasons, but it feels like a lot of the time when Indigenous women are talked about in the media, you know, it's in regards to MMIW and some of the more challenging things that our people go through and our women and girls go through especially. And so, you know, kind of thinking about that aspect of it and thinking about the ways that me and Shayla really represent like Indigenous joy, but also we were those women who like came from a really traumatic, difficult childhood, you know, father in and out of the prison system and gangs, violence, all of that stuff was around us when we were really little girls. And we worked really, really hard to find our peace, find our joy, overcome that, heal from that, to become these women today who are funny, you know, vibrant, like who live life to their fullest and who can express joy and happiness, you know, like. And so we really wanted to go on this national stage and just really show like what life can be like when you persevere and you push through some of those more challenging times, because good things are on the horizon.
That's such an inspiring answer, and I'm sure that that's going to mean a lot to people that are watching both of you on their screens too, so that's really cool. And I know you both can't say much, but I'm curious how your overall experience was on the show.
I think that we got more than we expected from being on The Amazing Race Canada, truly. I know it has been a huge part in the healing for both of us, not just for our childhood, but for our sisterhood as well. And that was really special for me. I never got to have this time with my sister when I was a child and an early teen, and our trauma did keep us separated for a lot of that. So coming on to this race and getting to spend all this time with my sister, it was really, really healing and very, very special for me.
And Cheyenne, how was your overall experience?
It was truly life-changing. It's like, you know, I always say that like Creator has a plan, right? And we never know exactly why we're meant to do something, but there's always a reason for it. And it's so funny how things surprise you, because, you know, we might have had all of these ideas in mind, but something that we weren't expecting was just truly how transformational this was going to be in terms of healing those childhood wounds that we didn't even know we were still necessarily hanging on to and that we're still there. And so to come out of this experience together stronger as sisters, like where we got to experience each other as women, you know, not those little girls when we were younger, and not like me seeing her as like a mom or her seeing me as this whatever free spirit who's out there in the world and traveling and doing all this other stuff. Like we truly just got to be with each other and have fun. And like that's how we approached this, was just like we kept saying the entire time, is just like all this is we're just on vacation, we're just doing activities, we don't know what the activities are, but that's fine. And like that's just, if we kept that mentality, then we're going to keep ourselves grounded.
It's awesome. Well, we wish you both the best of luck on the race, and we'll definitely be cheering you both on. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Love you all.
BBC, let's go.
Great conversation and good luck. We now want to give you the results to last week's web poll questions. Our first question was, are there political and social issues that comedians should stay away from in their routines? 67% of you voted no and 33% voted yes. Our second question was, do you think enough is being done to preserve records and testimony of residential school survivors? 76% said no and 24% said yes. And our final question that we asked was, did you attend an event celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day? 62% said no and 38% said yes. Thanks to everyone who took the time to vote. Please check back on our website to see this week's new web poll questions at aptnnews.ca. With summer here, pow-wow season hits us head on. We take you to Windsor to check in on what they had going on for Indigenous Peoples History Month. Cheskwa. Wow, welcome back. Starting on the East Coast, Fredericton 24, Halifax 18, Kuujjuaq 22, Nain 20, over to Chibougamau 25, Quebec City 22, down to Toronto 27, Sault Ste. Marie 19, up to Big Trout Lake 16 and Kapuskasing 26, over to Churchill now at 7 and Thompson 20, moving to Winnipeg at 21 and Dauphin 19. Regina also 19 and Saskatoon 16. Up to Stony Rapids 23 and Buffalo Narrows 19. Moving west, Peace River 22, High Level 24. Medicine Hat 16, Calgary also 16. Campbell River 16, Bella Coola 10. Fort Nelson 14, Smithers 16. Up to Old Crow at 11 and Mayo 13. Moving to Wati 27 and Norman Wells 11. Paulatuck 8, Colville Lake 15. Moving over to Cambridge Bay 10 and Baker Lake 24. Arctic Bay is at 1 and Igloolik 11. It was considered a nod to the past. A celebration of Indigenous culture filled Charles Clark Square in downtown Windsor, Ontario on Friday as the community gathered for a competition powwow marking National Indigenous Peoples History Month. Charles Clark Square was filled with the beat of the drums, colorful footsteps, and colorful regalia, marking the competition powwow in honor of National Indigenous Peoples History Month. The free event featured traditional food, music, cultural teachings, and Indigenous vendors, while giving the community a chance to learn, to connect, and to celebrate together.
Our organization actually offers a lot of different services to Indigenous people, and those services come from funding. So, being able to be visible and people knowing that we're here really helps us be able to provide those services. Without people knowing that we exist, we don't have the means to continue those services.
And that's your APTN National News for Monday, June 29th. For news anytime, head on over to our website at aptnnews.ca. I'm TR Wheatley. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. Join me and the crew again tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. Until then, from all of us at APTN to all of you, Egase, Gitam, Ginanaskamitta Nawao.